Friends, in this section I'm going to talk about Java loops. So the first thing is to understand what a loop is in programming and also what a while loop is. As I'm getting on, you also hear me talk about the do while loop. So in computer programming, a loop is a sequence of instructions that is continually repeated until a certain condition is reached. Now the while loop also in computer programming is a control flow statement that allows code to be executed repeatedly based on a given Boolean condition. So let's look at the flow diagram of a while loop. So first of all, the condition is set here. So let's look at the flow diagram of a while loop. So first of all, the condition is set here. A condition that is set here, and you have another section here that checks the condition. So once this condition is met, then it's true, the loop process continues. But once it's false, then the other part of the program continues. You'll see how this is done when we get into the example. But before we do that, let's look at Java incremental operators and Java decremental operators. When you see something like plus plus, for example, x plus plus, this is the same thing as x equal to x plus 1. So whatever value x has, we're adding 1 to it when you see an incremental operator being used. The same thing too, if you have a decremental operators like y minus minus, the same thing as y is equal to y minus 1. So if y takes a value of 10, then you are using a decremental operator like y minus minus, then the next value will become 9. So you see how we're going to use this in our while loop process. So let's look at this example. Now in this example, we are going to use our counter to look at numbers that are generated and to know if it has met a particular condition, and where that fails, then the process will continue. So let's look at this. In the previous example, I've already talked about the Java syntax, what void mean. This is the main method of a Java program. So the first thing I did here was in this program to declare a variable. In this case, our variable is a counter. So I declared it by giving it a data type integer and initialize it by giving it a value. Then we get to the section where our while loop condition starts. So the while loop condition is while this counter is less than 5, you move on. If it's true, then you print the numbers. Go to the next line. After printing, you add 1 to it. That is an incremental operator. Then it goes round again until whenever this condition fails. When this condition is false, then the system, the while loop process will finish and the program will continue by printing goodbye. Because we're starting with number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when it is 1, when it's 2, when it's 3, when it's 4, the conditions are all true, and those the printout will display 1 to 4, and once it becomes 5, the condition becomes false, and once it's false, the other part of the program continues and the system will print goodbye. So going back here, you can see what I was talking about. Once it becomes false, the other part of the program continues, but when it's true, the loop will repeat. So let's see how this works by typing this on our JUDO IDE. So what I will just do is to copy this code. If you're typing it, you have to type it gently. Be sure that you don't have any syntax error. So I have my code typed here. So I'm going to run to compile this, and once it's compiled, the system will now print out and show me the result. So you see, when it becomes 1, you have counter is equal to 1 is equal to 2, and when it became 5, the condition became false and the system now prints goodbye. That's how the while loop condition is done. Then we now get to a point where we have a do while loop. Do while loop. Do it first before you do the while loop. So the do while loop are similar to while loop, except that the condition is tested after the code to be repeated or looped. The condition is tested after the code to be repeated or looped. So the general form of a do while loop is do it first and execute whatever we tell you to do, then before you now get to the while loop condition. Note that the repeated code is always executed once because the condition is tested after the loop ends. It may be better to use the old plain while loop in most cases because it tests the condition before the loop starts. So the question is, when do you need to use while loop? When do you need to use a do while loop? Now, any situation that you find yourself where you need to test a condition that will be suitable for while loop, then of course you have to do that. But where is that's not possible, then you do the do while loop. So let's see what the do while loop is really all about here. So we already know what void main is, and whatever we have here in between the commands that we want to execute. So here we declared this variable, and we gave it initialize it by giving it a value 15. We initialize it, and we declared it, then we now give it a value of 15. So here our do while loop begins, and the first thing is here the counter plus plus simply means add 1 to the value of counter, then print. So what we expect is that the print counter here will be 16. So that's the first condition that we've done under the while. Before you now get to the while loop, the while loop here is saying, is this value that is we've just gotten, is it less than 10, less than or equal to 10? Of course that's false, and because it's false, the process will stop. So the do while loop is executed first before the system gets into the while loop condition. So let's see what happens. I'm going to paste this and run it. What I expect is that the system will just give me 16 as a value. So only 16 is what I have. So you can look for other examples. So we also have what is called the Java for loop. Now, instead of initializing the counter separately and declaring the variable, setting the boolean condition, incrementing the counter, we can do all this in one statement. So the Java for loop are a short way of initializing the counter, setting the boolean condition, and incrementing the value all in one statement. So you can have it just in one line. So how is this done? So the form of the for loop is this: for bracket opens, initialize the counter, then you have the boolean condition, the condition that we want to make in iteration, the repeated value, which could be either incremental or decremental Java condition. So that has to be specifically set there. So all this can be done within one line. Then you now have your codes with repeated code to be executed. So a for loop sets all the condition of a loop inside the parentheses after the for loop statement. So let's look at this example. Now let's see this. So instead of so here we have the initialization, we have the boolean condition that has been set, and of course we have the incremental operator that has been brought in here, all in one line. So instead of writing it in separate lines, what the for loop does is to bring it together. So basically the same thing. So here we're saying that we're giving a x the first value of 0, and now we're checking the condition. X less than 10, is 0 less than 10? Answer is true, and because it's true, the value will be incremented, and the loop continues until when we have x equal to 10. So here the condition will be tested again. Is 10 less than 10? Answer is false, and because it's false, the next line goes. So we now print the value of so the process will stop. So now what we expect here as our resultant values from this condition should be from 0 to 9. So if we run this, then this is what we're going to have. So please note that if the incremental operators were not used, you definitely basically will have a looping process that will be continuous, that will have no ending. Let me show you what I mean. In this last example, if I remove the incremental operator, of course the incremental operator could also be decremental operator. So if I run this, this is what you're going to have. So you have the numbers continuously going without no ending, and it just keeps increasing because none of this value could meet the condition that we have here. They are all less than 10. Beside that, if I remove this incremental or decremental operator completely, and I tell the system to run this, this is what we're going to have. So we have 0 being repeated continuously without an ending, because here we had already initialized this a variable as 0, and here we're telling it, we're comparing, we're looking at the boolean condition, we're telling it is 0 less than this. Answer is true, and because it's true, we're printing out 0, and we don't have any other thing to check it, to either increment it to meet the condition. So the process continues, and it will continue like this forever. So leaving a system like this in this kind of state will mean that your processor, your memory will be used up, and if you have millions of operations like this going on, your system can crash. So this is only one thing you have to watch out for, and this is how hackers hack into people's system, creating repeated loops that probably will not be meaningful to the system, will take up the entire processing power of the system, and it can bring down the system. So I hope you understand this. This is really a lesson on while loop. So the while loop, it's a big concept in programming, and you can apply it in any field of studies.